Okay, I call this meeting of the Northwest Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called and the notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551. The board will convene in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 551, including sections 551.071, consultation with the board's attorney, and 551.072 real estate matters, and 551.074 personnel matters, and 551.076 security devices and security audits. And now we will move to closed session. Okay, it's 6:30, and we're going to reconvene into our regular meeting. Dr. Warren?
All right, folks, everybody stand for us. Great to see everybody. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it. If you feel comfortable doing so, please pray with me. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day, and Lord, we just thank you for our school district. We thank you for the children of our district, for our parents, for our teachers, for all of our staff. Thank you for our communities. We just ask that you bless this meeting, Lord, be with our board members, and Lord, just above all things, just be with our children. Give them your love, your guidance, your wisdom, and your protection. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Thank you. All right, folks, we have two very special guests tonight. Where are the Russell girls? Come on up, ladies. We have a sister team tonight. Hi, ladies. All right. We have the 4th grade Russell. Savine, wave at everybody. This is Savine, guys. And then she is with her parents, Crystal and Aaron. Thank y'all for being here. Where'd they go? Oh, there we go. Let's see. For Savine, her favorite subject is math. There's always only one correct answer. Nice, Savine. She likes to dance, run, play with my dog and my sisters, and she loves field trips. Very good. This is what Dr. Conklin said about Savine. Savine is a fantastic student who demonstrates many of our learner qualities we teach in our mindset meetings. She is determined, caring, and she challenged herself to learn beyond what is taught in class. She is a great example of what it truly means to be true blue. Savine, thank you for being here. And then we have, is it Thiessen? Hi, Thiessen. How are you?
Good.
Good. Thiessen, her favorite, she's a mathematician too. She loves math and, what else, Thiessen? You said PE. She likes to hang out with her family, and she likes to play. Thiessen is a sweet girl and full of personality. Her smile can light up the room. She is determined to do her very best on all of her assignments. She is kind, thoughtful, and always modeling our true blue qualities. Ladies, thank y'all for being here. So, there's the American flag. Here's the Texas flag. If you'll lead us in the American pledge first, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Now the Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, indivisible.
Great job, ladies. Now stay right there. You got a little gift coming.
Okay, now we're going to move to recognitions. Dr. Warren?
All right, Mr. Cantu, are we ready to go?
We are ready, sir.
So, board, let's do something different tonight. Let's all of us go to the front. We've got some very special guests and a very special guest here tonight. We're going to honor a Northwest High School graduate, but we're also going to be honored to take what he has to offer us tonight. We really do appreciate you coming on, Mr. Smith. We really do appreciate it. So why don't we all go down and take part in this presentation, please.
For our presentation tonight, we'd like to welcome Mr. Calvin Smith to join us up front, please, at this time. Mr. Smith was raised in Justin, Texas, and now lives in Aurora. He was a member of the second graduating class from Northwest High School and would like to present Northwest ISD with his letter jacket. His letter jacket was the first letter jacket given out for Northwest High School and for Northwest ISD. He was also captain of the basketball team. In 1950, Northwest High School was still meeting at the old Justin School. We are honored that Mr. Smith would present this special gift to the district.
Mr. Smith, anything? Any comments? No. All right, well, let's get around and let's take a really good picture, please. Thank you very much. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Mr. Smith, would any of your guests like to come up and take a picture? Come on. Come on. Oh, and our athletic director? Yes.
Yep. Hey, there you go.
Y'all come on in. Smith, we appreciate you. We really do. Thank you, sir. That's very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, we'd like to ask Ms. Casey Bennett to join us up front. Ms. Bennett was recently recognized for winning the Marty Merle Excellence in Education Award for her teaching and assisting deaf-blind students and their teachers. This is the top honor for her profession in the region. She says her passion is creating better programming access and communication for these students and the staff that supports them. Congratulations, Ms. Bennett. And finally this evening, we'd like to ask Deputy Superintendent for Business and Operations, John Graswich, and Executive Director of Purchasing, Mark Bichon, to join us up front. Or Mr. Carter. Northwest ISD has been recognized by the Texas Association of School Business Officials as one of 2 districts in Texas to receive the Elite Award of Merit for Purchasing Operations. We'd like to congratulate NISD's Purchasing Department for their continued best practices. And that's it for recognitions. Thank you.
And folks, y'all are always welcome to stay the rest of the meeting, but if you have other things to do, I may get a basketball game tonight.
Okay, our next item is public participation, and there are none. So we will move on to consent agenda, and I think Dr. Warren has something to say.
Well, just one thing, Board. There's a couple of questions about our joint agreements, and if you look at our consent agenda, we have quite a few. This is just that time of year to have quite a few agreements with our entities, with our partners for the voting, for the elections. And I just wanted to, Dr. Cayley, just to go over just a second on about what we go through to make sure that these partnerships work, and about how we choose schools and things like that. Kim, can you let everybody know?
Sure. Our counties, of course, we're working with Denton, Tarrant, and Wise County. They're really good to work with us. They know that a school setting is not always the ideal place to have as a polling location, but sometimes it is needed. We can't refuse whenever they do need to use our sites, but they've been very good to work with us. But once we kind of know the areas that they're needing, one example is with Denton County. They had used Pike Middle School and Clara Love in the past, and this year we've worked with them to use Central Office. So Central Office will be the only location used for an early voting site, and also on Election Day, and then we have a few other campuses that they've selected for Election Day, which is on Saturday, May 4th, which is good because school's not in session. But they come in and we work together to find a good location in the building that has the adequate access for them to enter the building and parking, but won't disrupt the school, that we can adequately kind of block off so that there's no access to kids if it were on a school day.
Any questions? Board, I would recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Madam President,
Mr. Sluter?
I move we can approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Sluter, a second by Dr. Roush. All those in favor? Carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Okay, our next item under action items is naming of principal of Steele Accelerated High School. Dr. Warren?
Board, let me compliment, you've heard this story, but let me compliment our committee work that has been done. We do a lot of behind-the-scenes committee work and interviewing for these positions, so I'm very proud of all the work that's been done on these. I very proudly bring you the name Todd Rogers. Todd is the current associate principal at Northwest High School, and he is our recommendation to be the new leader of Steele Accelerated High School.
Madam President,
Dr. Roush?
I motion to name Todd Rogers as principal of Steele Accelerated High School as recommended by the administration.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Roush, a second by Mr. Sproles. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Okay. Item B, naming of principal of Sluter Elementary School. Dr. Warren?
Board, same thanks to these committee members. They, again, did an excellent job, and I very proudly bring you the name Casey Rogers. Casey is the current assistant principal of Sluter Elementary School, and we've got at least one smile in the audience. And I appreciate everything Casey has done, and we really do think she's going to be a phenomenal leader to lead Sluter in the future.
Madam President,
Mr. Sluter.
I proudly make a motion to name Casey Rogers as principal, if I can pronounce this right, Sluter Elementary, as recommended by the administration.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Sluter, a second by Mr. Hastings. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor? Carries 6-0. Congratulations. All right, next is naming of Executive Director of Financial Services. Dr. Warren?
Board, again, same comments about the committee. I bring you the name Jonathan Pastusik to be our new Executive Director of Financial Services. Jonathan has both private and private business experience, and also is the current Financial Director of Finances for another school district, and we believe he's going to do an excellent job working in our Financial Services Department.
Hey, Madam President.
Mr. Sproles?
I move to name Jonathan Pastusik as Executive Director of Financial Services as recommended by the administration.
I have a motion by Mr. Sproles, a second by Dr. Simpson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Our next item is the 2019-20 instructional materials. Dr. Warren?
Board, if you remember, Stephanie's team did a great job presenting this to us last board meeting. The information begins on page 160 in your packet. The actual recommendations begin on page 167 in Dr. Espinosa's presentation that outlined the committee's recommendations. Stephanie, comments?
I don't have any. I know they did a great job while I was home with the flu, thanks to my 7-year-old. So I'm sure they did a better job than I could have done. So I don't have any further comments unless you have questions.
Board, I would recommend approval.
Mr. Sluter?
I move to approve the adoption of the 2019-2020 instructional material selections made by the Instructional Materials Committee as presented and recommended by the administration.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Sluter, a second by Mr. Hastings. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work, Stephanie, and your crew.
Thank you. Our next item, consider adoption of an order authorizing the issuance of unlimited tax school building bonds, establishing sale perimeters, authorizing the execution of purchase contract, approving an official statement, and enacting other provisions related to the subject. Dr. Warren?
Say that again real fast.
No.
Board, as I explained to you in my letter, we were actually going to wait a board meeting to do this, but we have an opportunity to get some really better rates. Correct, guys?
Yes, sir.
And we would like to bring this to you. Comments, Brian?
I think just, as you know, in May of 17, the voters authorized $399 million. We sold the first $100 million last May. We're coming again to authorize the second $100 million. That'll exhaust about half of that bond, obviously with $199 million left for future sales. There is no impact to the tax rate. And so it's also has a permanent school fund guarantee, so we will get the AAA rating again on this bond sale. And so I've got Jeff Robert with Hilltop here as our financial advisors, and if there's any further questions, Jeff or I can handle those. And I think Jeff's got a little bit of, there's a packet that's at your place, and Jeff's got a few things to go through with that, so I'll turn it over to him.
No, okay. Good evening, Board President Koff, Dr. Warren, members of the board. Jeff Robert with Hilltop Securities, also here, your bond attorney, Chuck Kogdish with McCall Parker.
Good to see you.
And I'll give Chuck the credit for that lengthy agenda item that you read. I don't want to steal his thunder there. So, and I apologize, we don't have it up on the screen, but you should have a booklet in front of you, and I'm going to go through it very, very quickly. If you'll flip over to page 2, as Dr. Warren had mentioned, our timeline has typically been to bring issuance of what we call new money to the board in May. However, a couple of factors have kind of brought us here this evening to do it this month rather than May. And this first page that shows the graph is the 20-year bond buyer index. It just gives you an idea of where long-term interest rates have been over a lengthy period of time on the graph in the background, and then the blue shows what rates have done just over the last year. And you can see that rates have kind of sharply declined just over the last couple of weeks. One of the reasons for that is that there's not a whole lot of volume out there. In other words, there's not a lot of tax-exempt AAA-rated bond issues out there. There's about $11 billion in elections on the May date, and we thought, you know what, we might try to move this up, take advantage of hopefully lower interest rates and get out in front of some of those other issuers. They're going to probably pass their elections and immediately issue thereafter. So that's the reason for bringing this to you this evening. On the next page, just kind of a summary to show, as Brian had mentioned, the $399 million election in 2017. We issued $100 million last year there in column 2, and then the projected issuance of the remaining $299 million in authorization over the next 3 years, with that highlighted blue number there in column 3 being the $100 million for this issuance here. And then below that, you can see the projected INS tax rate. And you can see we do project in coming years that the growth is going to allow for the tax rate to decrease and provide capacity for future elections. The next page, on page 4, what we're doing is nothing different than what we've done for several years, just a parameter order which Mr. Kobdish has provided for your consideration this evening. To summarize, the board delegates final pricing authority to Dr. Warren and/or Mr. Graswich. So if you approve tonight, we'll price later this month, and if we meet the parameters that are within the order, then they will have the ability to approve on behalf of the district. Page 5, once again, the reason we do this, it gives us flexibility, allows for hopefully better timing in order to hopefully achieve the best rate for the district. If you go over to page 6, those are the parameters that are in the order that you're considering this evening. Only if those parameters are met can Dr. Warren or Mr. Graswich approve. And then lastly, on the final page, if you pull that page out, if those of you that are interested in detail, you can kind of look and see ultimately the numbers in column 13 on that are the tax rates that you saw in that green line in that graph, but just working from left to right, you can see the taxable value assumptions we're using, your pre-2017 election debt service there in column 4, the effect of a defeasance that we had recently done. Column 6 was that first $100 million we've done, and then the next 3 columns show the projected issuance of the remaining authorization, which works over to column 13, those tax rates that once again are that green line that you saw in the graph. And then we also looked at, what kind of dollar capacity do we have per year at the current 45-cent INS rate there in column 14, and then 50 cents is really the cap. So what kind of capacity do we have at that number as well, just for kind of looking towards the future. And I know I flew through that very quickly. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Board, any questions?
I do have a question. My question is probably more suited for Mr. McClure than you guys, but is this $100 million earmarked for current projects that are in design or future projects?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, we work with John in the finance department to project out, so it is truly a little bit of both. So we're coming off some construction this summer that's towards that dollar amount, and we're already planning our next 12 months of fiscal spending for those numbers.
Thank you, Mr. McClure.
You're welcome.
Board, I'd recommend approval.
Madam President,
Mr. Sproles?
I move to approve the adoption of an order authorizing the issuance of unlimited taxable building bonds, establishing sale parameters, authorizing the execution of a purchase contract, approving an official statement, and enacting other provisions related to the subject as recommended by the administration.
Second. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Sproles, a second by Dr. Roush. Is there any other comment? Okay, all those in favor? 6-0, and we're going to take a short break to sign some papers. It'll just be a couple of minutes.
Stretch your legs. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schluter.
Okay, our next item is proposed medical premiums for 2019-20 plan year. Dr. Warren?
Board, we talked a little bit about this in the past, and we're going to officially present these to you. And now this starts our discussion only part of our board meeting of our items. So this is discussion only, and then you'll be asked to approve next board meeting. So Kitty, Kim, the entire crew, the HR department, our finance department, we've been working very hard on this, and so they're going to roll out the proposed premiums for this year, answer questions, and they'll be available to answer questions for the next 2 weeks as we plan for this year's premiums. So, Kitty, are you first?
Yes, sir, I sure am.
Get on it.
I am. Good evening, everyone. We're here to present the medical plan recommendations for the 2019-20 plan year. This evening we have Eric Smith, who is our benefit consultant. Mr. Smith has been here for quite some time, as Mr. Schluter reminded me, and he has guided us through the implementation of the clinic, as well as he provides the recommendations to us regarding the medical plan, where we need to go, and our projected funding information. Just to give you a little background of what we plan to do, pending board approval, we plan to do open enrollment in the month of May. We will have all of the open enrollment sessions done at the campuses prior to the last week of school so that our staff members can get that enrollment done and move on out for the summer. Also, our employees will have till mid-June, the June 14th, to get their enrollment done if for some reason they're unable to. And then the personal health assessment, which is something we've done for the last several years, must be completed by June 30th. So at your places, I did place an additional item this afternoon that basically is just a summary of the 3 medical plans. I'd like to draw your attention to that in that the medical plans are all exactly the same as far as benefits. The difference is the deductibles. So basically, the plans with the higher deductibles have the lower premiums. The one with the $750 deductible, which is our core plan, has the higher premium, and that is because the plan begins paying immediately. So that is there for you, as well as the information we provided in your board packets, which include the surrounding district contributions and then a side-by-side comparison to the TRS plans so that you can see that information there. The recommendations, and let me give you some history. This year, we did not raise premiums. This was the 3rd year that we did not raise premiums for the basic and the core plan. We also, the high deductible and the basic plan. The core plan, we did not raise the premiums this past year, but needed to in the prior year, and we'll talk about the reason for that here in just a moment. We added quite a few new benefits as far as changing providers. We have a new pharmacy provider called the Maxor, and we've seen significant plan changes with that implementation. We changed disability carriers, we changed vision providers, we changed dental providers, and we added critical illness. The only thing we're proposing this year is the premium change. So our employees will not have changes in providers or things that they need to look over and make changes. The data we have is as of February of 2019. Our plan year begins September 1 and ends August 31st. So we've just got a few months of details and data that we can use to try to set the premiums. Our high deductible plan and our basic plan are performing relatively well. In other words, the way that we fund the health plan is through the premiums that we collect along with the district contribution. So those 2 plans are just a little below what we're collecting in premiums. Our core plan is 75% expenses are greater than the revenue that we collect on our premiums. So that plan is not doing as well as it could be. Also, we increased our stop loss from 175 to 225. For those of you who are not familiar with the stop loss, that is the first claim dollars that we pay on each participant before our reinsurance kicks in. So basically, we took that from 175 to 225. So anyone that has a claim that is below 225, the fund totally pays all of those claims without any reimbursement back from our carrier. In just a few minutes, we will go over the number of participants in the plan. The last several years, for those of you who have been on the board, know that we've had significant stop-loss claimants. Last year alone, in the 17-18, we had 12 that were over $175,000, and then we also had 8 over $100,000. So that is roughly about $2.9 million that the fund paid out before we got any reimbursements back. So this is our projected plan performance. Last year, that bottom number of $1.6 million is the audited financial balance. So the fund ended in a positive state. If you will notice on the excess revenue under the 2018-2019, that item should be noted in red. So we will lose about $105,000 this plan year. Again, that's a projection that Mr. Smith has done based on prior analysis, the claims trend, and the actuarial information that he uses to come up with that. So as you'll see at the bottom, we are slowly depleting the fund balance, and that's based on if everything stays status quo. This time last year, when we set the rates and we didn't increase them, the plans were doing well, just as they're doing now, and then the bottom fell out. And basically, all of those high claimant dollars kind of came in. As you know, with claimants, some will be one and done, some will continue. We have had several individuals that their condition does not resolve and they continue to be a stop-loss claimant. So this is our high deductible plan. What we've done is listed the number of employees that we have on each level so that as you make the decision as to whether to approve our recommendations, you will see the number of employees that will be impacted by this. We have 1,200 employees on the medical plan for a total of about 2,972 participants. The majority, or 60% of all of our employees, are on that high deductible plan, which has the $2,200 deductible, and this is the Affordable Care Act requirement that we must have. We are proposing that we do not increase that high deductible plan, and that would, again, impact 438 employees as they are currently on the plan. So there is no recommendation to increase the premiums for them. Also to remind you on the personal health assessment, for those individuals with employee only and employee children, they get a $25 a month deduction for participating in the PHA, and a $50 for employee and spouse and employee and family. Children under the age of 18 are not required, nor are the ones over 18, but we encourage them to learn about healthcare and learning about their different biometric conditions, such as pre-diabetic conditions as such. We have found through our utilization that everyone on that high deductible plan is basically going to the clinic. That clinic is their home health base, and they're going to the clinic. If you recall, we pay a flat rate each month to Texas Health to manage that clinic, and then we pay for supplies. Those are billed back to the health plan. So we have seen a significant increase in utilization with our change in provider a few months ago, and we want to continue that trend. We will, again, we're in the process of searching for a new provider for the clinic because our current physician is no longer going to be there for medical reasons. But we know that our employees are utilizing that clinic so much that we're going to have to look for a second location in the next couple of years. The next one is the basic plan, 37 of our participants are on there. In the far right-hand corner, that is what the premium increase would reflect. As you can see, that amount varies based on their level of coverage. So I can be on the high deductible plan and have zero, but if I want to be on the employee-only plan for basic, which has a lower deductible of $1,100, then my monthly increase is going to be $57. And last, we have the core plan. 38 employees, or about 3% of our employees, are on that plan. If you'll recall from a few slides ago, you'll see that that plan is falling below the revenue that we collect from those 38 employees, which basically means those individuals are our high claimants. Dr. Cayley.
Okay, so recommendations. Our goal is to provide quality benefits and premiums that are a fair cost to our employees. I don't know what happened.
Go back to.
I don't think I can talk about the aquatic center. I don't know.
Should still be there.
Okay. We are self-funded in Northwest, and most school districts use TRS Active Care. So our goal is to match or exceed those benefits in the TRS plans as well as other health plans. So included in your board packet tonight is a very detailed comparison of those three plans. So you can just tab across the bottom to see those comparisons. TRS has continued over the past several years to raise premiums each year and reduce their benefits. And in contrast, for the last 3 consecutive years, we have kept our premiums with no increase on the basic and high deductible plan. And last year, we were able to not increase those on the core plan as well. As Kitty shared with you in some previous slides, our expenditures on all 3 plans continue to exceed our revenue, and there is a need to increase our plan fund balance. Those of you that were on the board several years ago may recall that our plan did get into a deficit situation, and district funds had to be used to create a positive fund balance. So we really see the need to build up those plan reserves. With that, we are recommending 0 premium increases to the employee-only portion of the high deductible plan. That is where over 400 of our employees have selected that one plan. It's the most popular. That will continue to give our employees an option, a low-cost option. The recommendation is to increase all other coverage levels on the high deductible plan, basic and core plan, and that will range from $57 additional a month to $207, depending on the coverage level and the plan that they select. So you have a copy of this chart in your packet as well. This is the state requires that each district contribute at least $225 a month toward district insurance. So you can see that currently Northwest is $100 a month over that requirement. This is something that we really do like to point out to our employees, and we like to point it out when we are recruiting applicants so that they can see and really take a good comparison. One important note, you can see Hearst, Euless, Bedford there at the bottom. They currently pay just the state minimum of $225 a month, but they continuously each year rank #1 in starting teacher salary. They're #1 in our area, and they're #1 in the state. They're just $1,500 over our starting salary in Northwest. So them paying $100 less toward employee insurance, when you really compare those, it puts us on a more level playing field. The last time that we did raise our district contributions was in 2016-17, and we raised it by $50 a month. So we raised it from $275 to $325. Later this spring, we're going to bring forward a compensation plan for you to consider. Compensation includes not just salary, but also those district contributions toward insurance. With the current legislative session, we're really uncertain what's going to come out of committee and how that will impact what we bring forward to you in our compensation plan. House Bill 3 does include an amendment to employee salary increases that is very different from what came out of the Senate. So we're just going to be closely monitoring that as we make those decisions on what to propose to you. If we were to consider raising the district contribution by an additional $25 a month to help offset the increase in the premiums, that would be at a cost of $500,000. That does take into account any growth that we would have next year with more employees coming onto the plan. But this option would directly benefit those employees that participate in our health plan and that may be realizing some of those premium increases. And we'll also be bringing forward salary options for you to consider. For 1920, for every 0.5% salary increase, that is at a cost of about $750,000. This is a discussion-only item tonight. We will be bringing forward the medical plan for you to approve at the next board meeting, but we are happy to answer any questions.
Tech people, I apologize, but I have questions. This is important stuff. Okay. On the stop loss, going from 175 to 225, was that to help keep premiums down, or what's the impact of that?
That was to keep the stop loss premium down significantly. So
okay.
By us having the greater liability, the cost to the plan for the stop loss premium, by moving up to 225, it saved the plan significant money. Because of our prior, and Mr. Smith, please correct me if I'm wrong, but because of our prior history, when we went to bid our stop loss, that was the only way to keep the premium controlled because of the pure number of high claimants that we had. And we've been on a very high as far as the plan, and it looks like we're on our way back down. But how many years will it take, Mr. Smith, for us to try to get that down to 3 years of good claims to try to get it down to a more manageable premium cost?
Okay. And with the stop losses, for the individuals that get to that limit, does it reset every year, or they go back to zero and okay?
Yes, sir. Every plan year it resets. Yes,
okay.
sir.
And then you said that a lot of individuals are going to the clinic. What does it cost the individual when they walk into the clinic?
Zero.
Okay.
It is $0. We pay that flat fee each month to Texas Health. So to go to the clinic, it's $0. It's funded out of the health plan, and then there's about that 80 to 90 generic medications that are free of charge. I was looking at our report, and our generic is at 89%. So our employees go to the clinic, get their medication, and we hover at that 89% utilization, which is very high, and which is a cost saving to the plan and the participants.
Okay. And then last question, PHA incentive, what is that?
The employees do a blood test, and it is blood and then their blood pressure and their weight. It's a 34-factor test that looks at everything ranging from kidney functions to cholesterol to potassium, and basically gives them a red or a green light and says, I need to be concerned about my calcium, or I could be diabetic. Right now we're finding that we are all vitamin D deficient because we use such wonderful sunscreen. So then they are discussing the different foods that will help you with vitamin D and the supplements that go as well with it. So they have to have the PHA done at the clinic. They can get it done if they go in sick, as long as they've fasted for 8 hours. And then the information is then posted into their app, their Texas Health MyChart app, so that they can have that information and walk into any doctor's office, open that app, and share that information. It benefits the employee as well as the plan in that we don't have to duplicate laboratory efforts.
And they save $25 a month?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For employee, and then if they have employee and spouse and family, it's 50.
Okay.
So both the spouse and the employee need to complete it. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Board, if you'll continue to look at this for the next couple of weeks, any questions that come up, we can just shoot those through me, and I'll give them to Kitty and Kim, and we will represent this to you next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, our next item is the Northwest ISD Aquatic Center funding. Dr. Warren?
Mr. McClure, please.
I think what Dr. Cayley was trying to show you is that the more swimming you do, less trips to the health clinic, right? It's easy on the joints. It's good cardio exercise.
Getting on with our presentation.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. We're on a clock. I forgot. Okay, just to give you a quick update, board, and we'll get right into this. Right before the first of the year, we talked about the why on the Aquatic Center, all the things that it benefits for us and our students and cuts down on rental fees and travel, and ability to start some important swim lessons and water safety lessons for our students across the entire district. We talked about what if we could present a facility that had the opportunity to do some training resources, some healthcare resources, some rehabilitation resources, and additionally help offset operational costs long term. We left there with that meeting before with y'all allowing us the charge to go and pursue some of those endeavors, and so I just want to come back tonight, kind of let you know where we are on those relationships. Before I kind of bring that update, I just want to revisit the plan, kind of show you again where everything is operating. Of course, we're looking at the Aquatic Center going in right across from the building we're in today on the old baseball practice facility. We take a closer look into there. You'll see kind of the layout of the parking a lot. There's been little changes, little tweaks to this from the last time we showed you, but in general, it's pretty much what you're seeing there. Here is the initial layout of the overall Aquatic Center. You see the medical areas there highlighted in that kind of yellow. The off pink color is kind of the training areas, with that long area being that indoor turfed workout and training facility. Shared use in the weight area between the school district side and the training area. And then everything else you see supporting the actual swim program and dive program for Northwest ISD. In addition, there's a classroom space right off the main lobby there that looks into the pool to help support the CTE programs that we're wanting to bring through with the with those programs. Second floor, moving up to second floor, you've got the rehabilitation areas. They're laid out again, another Texas Health resource area, and then mostly seating with some concession and restrooms, of course, up on the second floor to support the swim activities. Here's a rendering of what the outside is looking like from the drawings. When you walk in the lobby, you kind of see a shared lobby where to the left would be the medical orthopedic practice for Texas Health Resources. Straight ahead is the practice pool. To the right is the competition pool. And then, of course, going upstairs to the spectator area. Here's a view coming into the spectator area on the second floor and what the pool starts to lay out like. The swim lanes closest to this end and the diving area to the far end. Another view from the floor, looking back across the swim lanes and up towards the spectator area. And then a view inside that practice facility, that workout facility, and then you see the glazing there that looks into the practice pool, and then you see some glazing beyond that that looks into the competition pool. So very transparent space across those three different spaces. So we're here tonight to talk a little bit, obviously, about the budget on this. This facility, currently we've been working with POG. We do have representatives from POG as well as from Huckabee in the audience tonight, so if we need to get into specific questions, they'll be happy to come up and answer your questions. Certainly a facility like this is not one the district has done before. I actually say I've never done one before. This is especially going into a partnership with the agencies that we've been looking at, so a really unique opportunity. We work very closely with Joel and his staff and swim coaches to really evaluate this. We've gone through, I would say, 3 cuts as we've gone through this with POG and Huckabee to try to refine and refine and refine, all along working alongside Christy with our letters of intent for our particular partnerships. So let me cover that real quick. We've got a secured letter of intent with Texas Health Resources. They support this facility 100%, and so you see their budget number there that they're committed to. On the performance course side, though, you do see a 0 in their column for the base budget. Unfortunately, both performance course, we actually reached out to some other performance programs, and said, would you be interested in doing this? I just don't think any of those type of programs have the capital to pull this off on the front end. They've all said they would be willing to be a year-to-year lease tenant, but that they just don't have the capital to bring to the table, that 1.6 to bring to the table to fund it initially. In our best guess in dealing with our real estate broker and saying, what do we think we could get for a space like that, for a elite training program to come in, we're probably looking at payback over about 15 to 20 years, depending on rental rates and inflationary rates over the course of the year. So it is a number that could be absorbed back over 15 to 20 years to reabsorb that 1.6, if that is your desire to keep that piece in the project. Of course, you see the base budgets there for us, the cost estimate. We are a little bit over budget, and like I said, we've worked through it significantly. One of the challenges on a natatorium is, unlike a school, there's not a lot of fluff in a natatorium. It is what it is. It's a pool, it's a structure, it's the support facilities, the locker rooms, the stands, the bleachers, the concessions to support that. So that does become a challenge in this process. The next page, the next slide there, and I'm sorry, I know that's really hard to read up on the screen. I hope it's more clear on your screen. This is a list of things that we've started looking at that could reduce that overall cost. The big ones are the top three there. We have a drive lane currently scheduled. If I back up to the overall aerial, I'll show you that real quick. There's a drive lane that's scheduled to come in. See at the very bottom, it says drive to extend to Pike Middle School. One of the other projects that's currently under planning will be coming to you as a presentation in the next facilities report, is the athletic field house for the baseball and softball teams. It'll sit on the back side of those fields, and this drive would connect through to Pike and also serve that facility. So this would be the segment of drive that would pick up from that athletic field house to this area, just to make for some ease of movement around the site and having that internal drive. So that's one of the things there listed at the top, is that's not necessarily something that's needed, but would be a nice thing to have to connect those drives. The second big number there, of course, is getting rid of the performance course area, just taking that piece out. I mean, we saw that number at the first, it's 1.6 and some change. It's listed there. And then the other one, which I think deserves a little bit of conversation, is if we delete the practice pool. Of course, what we talked to you about, what we've been working with Joel and his team, is making this facility where it could endure up to 5 high schools. We know we'll be there at some point in the future. We'll be at 4 pretty soon. And so that 5th high school and having that practice pool allows them another area to work out. You can work out 4 high schools in the length of the pool that we have designed right now. To get that practice pool in allows you that ability to get one more high school in there before you have to build another natatorium or seek other rentals and moving people to other facilities to get their practice and lane times in. So you see the cost of that. There would be a modify of the layout then if we remove that, because we'd have to probably bring that training facility down. So there is some architectural rework that would have to happen with that. And then the rest of those, I think, are stuff we're looking at consistently with the architectural team, with the contractor team, and evaluating those as we work through that. But all that said, to bring you to the final slide, it talks about where we are with our other bond programs. And currently, let me make sure I have the right page here. I'll try to read it from up there. So currently, we are sitting in the 2008 bond program. We are looking at roughly about $465,000. Thank you. Sorry, I've got bad screens all around me over here. $465,000 available left. We still have Elementary 18. That's Lizzie Curtis that we're closing out. And so we're real close to finalizing that project and closing it out. But we do know those are actual dollars that are left in that bond as we sit today. And as you look to the 2012 bond, we're sitting at roughly about $8,059,000, dollars left in the 2012 bond. And again, we're in the process of getting ready to close out Middle School 6. Of course, that's Adams Middle School. And we do have some money still allocated there. Most of that money's towards that road work that we did on the service road that you see still waiting to be used there. And so we feel we're pretty confident about that money that's left in that project that has not been utilized. That's after all basic book has been purchased, after all athletic equipment has been purchased. That school's obviously been up and running for almost a year now, and we've got it pretty much fully funded. So that leaves the balance down there at the bottom at roughly $8.5 million, and so then it would be at your discretion to discuss whether or not we pull some of that money over for this project. Happy to answer any questions or further discussion, or if we need to ask the architects or contractors for any further details.
Hey, Tim, on the talk about a fifth high school, how far out are we on that? I guess how far are we on a fourth high school, then how far are we on a fifth high school?
Well, I would say the fourth high school is probably not. We're looking at probably bond election this time next year, and I don't think that one will be in this next one, but I think it will be in the one following. So if we say we're a 3 to 4 year bond cycle, which is what we're running, I would say I'd put that at about 7 years for the fourth high school. After that, it gets really foggy. I mean, it's hard to predict 7 years out, much less beyond that. But I could see the next one, given the growth we're seeing both in the North Lake area and in the south around Haslett and North Fort Worth. I think that fifth one's going to come a lot quicker, and I would say maybe another 5 to 7 years after that one. So you're looking at 7 to 14 years to get the next two.
Because the reason I'm asking is on that practice pool, do we really need it now, or can just when we build the fifth high school, can we expand the natatorium at the same time?
I think usually what you're not going to want to do, and I'd be willing to let the contractors and architects take in, expanding and adding more water because of the very intricate systems that go into making sure that water and the air are both cleaned properly. You really don't want to do that from a constructability standpoint. There is a lot that goes into making sure you're clearing off the chloramines, which is what is the smell you smell when you come in. There's a layer of that across that pool that the swimmers intake, and you really try to wipe that layer off with the air systems in there. So introducing an expansion, I think would probably put a burden on those systems if they're not designed to handle that from the get-go. I think it'd be a lot more complicated. I'm getting some nods from my contractor and architect, but that would be my first guess as to why you wouldn't want to expand with another pool.
Okay. Well, thanks.
I had the same question about the performance, but I also wondered, I know a lot of districts already have aquatic centers, and so I just wondered, what has been the time frame that they've had to upgrade or change for growth? Because obviously everything grows and changes over time, so I'm just curious.
Sure. I don't know. I'd be happy to research that and get that information back to you, unless, I don't know, Steve, if you have worked with any architects or school districts or Pogue, if y'all have worked with any school districts on their upgrades of their pools, if you have any comments to add to that, but I don't know off the top of my head.
I forget what I wanted to say. I would have to do a little bit of research on that. But we can find that.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think it would be interesting, just because I know even when we look at scoreboards and turf,
yes,
we have regular updates, and so I'm just curious to see what we can learn from our colleagues who have had these aquatic centers for a while.
I know the only one I've even come close to working on is Grapevine Colleyville's, and they just did a refurbishing of their, this was about 5 years ago, did a refurbishing of their interior spaces, and most of that was the slip areas around the pool, was coming back and putting another material down to help with that slip resistance, because over so many years that kind of wore down. But they didn't do any major renovation work to that pool at that time. But we'll get the answers for that to you.
Tim, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do we have a timeline that we're looking for to break ground or start design?
Well, we would like to break ground as soon as possible. The drawings are complete. We're ready to bid. We need to finalize some of these partnerships and bring that back to you, as well as a decision on if we're going to use any the savings from other bonds. But with the design team, the contractors, we're ready to put it out to bid just as soon as we get that green light from y'all. So we would like to break ground as quickly as possible. I'd say, this summer is where we're targeting. We really wanted to get it open sometime in the fall of 20. That didn't mean start of school of 20, but sometime in the fall of 20 is what we had targeted, and we're right up against that timeline right now to get that open.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep.
Tim, I have a question. What about the field house? You were talking about the road connecting. What's the timeline for it? When do you plan to start that?
The field house
The field house?
Yeah, the field house is scheduled to be bid later this month. So it's on track. It's in budget. Like I said, it'll be on our monthly report at the next board meeting. You'll see that. It's a baseball, softball field house supporting those two out there. And then there's some additions and renovations going on back at the Central Campus at Northwest High School Central Campus in conjunction with that project. But it's scheduled to go out bid at the end of this month.
So which do you see as being completed first, the field house or the aquatic center?
The field house should be completed first. Yes.
Okay, because you were talking about the road, eliminating the road, so that was why I was asking.
You could still, the connection of the road is something we could come back and do later. You would still have connection to the field house from the drive that would go down Pike, and you'd still have connection to the aquatic center from, obviously, Texan Drive. Just completing that loop makes a lot of sense for some internal traffic, but it doesn't prohibit either of those projects. Yeah. And the only other thing I'd remind the board as well, and Pogue has done a really good job, but this is an estimate. We have not put this out to bid yet. So a lot of this is subject to what the bid market is and where those numbers come back. I think they've done a great job in the past on all our projects of making sure that we're not coming back with any surprises on bid day. And I know they've worked really hard with their sub-markets to get these numbers. I'm very hopeful that it comes in lower than what we're showing you today. I know they don't want to come back and show you a higher number. So I just say all that this is an estimate. It's not the actual bids that we've received at this point.
I've just got a question about not so much the building of it, but what's our estimated cost for personnel units that will be assigned to that building?
So
we looked at that yet?
Yes, we started looking at that for next year's costs. We would have a director of the aquatic center, Joel, and an administrative staff. Is that right, to support the director? And then we have a facilities guy that is a water technician to keep the water. So it's basically 3 staff members to support that facility. We would also, some of these costs will be passed along to those user groups who rent from us. There's a lot of swim teams that we're already getting calls. I know Joel's getting calls on people wanting to already rent, even though we haven't even broken ground yet. But there are also some user costs in having supervision in the evening, and that type of stuff may fall to our maintenance guys and some of those people that would work off hours to be there for supervision. So that may be some cost that is reimbursed from those groups renting from us. There's a lot, just a side note to that, Ms. Hastings, is there's a lot of that that's hard to determine until we have that director in place and start talking through all those programs and how we're going to run that facility. But as far as district staff right now, we've got 3.
Great job, Tim. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, board.
Okay, moving to reports. First report is Outsourced Operations District Effectiveness Report.
Board, it's that time of year. You'll be very soon. You'll be asked to renew contracts, and so we always have our outsourced operations crew come and give you a district effectiveness report. So, Ms. Chandler.
Good evening. Tonight I'm here to introduce you to, we have 3 actually new managers this year with Reliant Transportation. Is going to go first. I'll introduce him first. Richard Blatchley is our general manager at the location and has been there this school year, and I'm going to let him take it away.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Dr. Warren, for allowing me to talk to you all this evening about school bus transportation. When I came out here from Lubbock, Texas this last year to be part of the Northwest ISD team, I knew there would be a lot of work that needed to be done. I told Dana Chandler, Mark Vachon, and John Graswich that it'd be baby steps. We had that much to do here. But I'm very proud in our inaugural year that we have been able to implement assigned seating on all the school buses, all 240 school buses. So every bus is numbered the exact same way, and that way the children know exactly what seat they can go to. Our on-time daily performance is 99% on time. We've initiated student roll calls to capture daily student ridership so we know who rides the bus every single day. We're currently installing PA systems in the back of the buses to better communicate with the students so that we're not hollering at them 40 feet away. I'm sure they appreciate that. At Christmas time, we supported the Angel Tree with Northwest ISD by providing the labor and the buses to deliver all the hundreds of gifts to each of the campuses for distribution. We started holiday bus decorations on the front of the buses as part of our community goodwill. We have uniforms, shirts, and safety vests for all of our drivers and bus monitors. We give a $1,000 safety bonus for drivers and $500 for our monitors for being safe. We've improved communication with the campuses and central administration. And our parent surveys that y'all just got back were 89%, up 10% from previous years. Our management staff consists of myself. I've been doing this for 29 years. Michael Butters, my operations manager, Amy Bruton, my safety manager, and Don Chandler, my maintenance supervisor. This is my operations team, and they're actually the ones that run the place. I just point them in the right direction and give them guidance. They're the ones that do all of the work. We have a combined number of years in school bus of 142 years to better serve the students of Northwest ISD. Our maintenance team consists of Randy Browning, Patrick, James, John, David, and Charles, and they keep us rolling daily. We currently have 140 bus routes, 140 regular routes, 37 special education routes, 32 middays, for a combined 15,813 miles per day. We do 1,206 field trips so far this year through February, and that totals 64,571 miles, and we're transporting approximately 14,000 students a day. We expect to end the school year at 2,546,673 miles when we're done. Safety. We've created employee training programs to promote safe driving and accident reduction. All of our buses are equipped with drive cam. This enables the drivers to be more aware of their driving habits. We have a safe stop, which allows the parents to real-time track their child's bus location. With Northwest ISD, Reliant developed a district-wide accident procedures plan previously not established. Drivers and monitors work to ensure that all students utilize seat belts at all times during routes and field trips. And managers and supervisors make themselves available to employees on the yard and at the campuses to ensure that all their safety needs are met. As part of that, to make sure that they stay with us and we can retain them, on paydays, we like to have breakfast for all the employees and serve them. So that's coming from us. And we try and do that every payday. This past Thanksgiving, we gave turkeys out to all of our employees. We also had a Christmas lunch and a spring fling. And there are giveaways to all of our employees at our monthly safety meetings. There will also be an upcoming end of the year picnic. And I want to thank you all for allowing us to be part of the Northwest family. Any questions?
I was just going to say an observation I've had is on, especially through social media, is you wouldn't know Reliant is part of the district, which I think is a good thing in years past. So that means y'all are doing a good job. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I made the comment to Richard today, they have surpassed our expectations, and we had some pretty lofty expectations from what we had to deal with, and so you guys have been doing a great job.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate you.
Number 2. This is Timothy Tran. He's with Aramark, and he's new this year, so we're going to welcome him, and I'm going to let him have it.
I click next on here. This one. Oh, thank you, everyone. So in my report, I really just want to focus on the highlights of our current school year. Our first slide is just going over meal statistics, and I'm not going to go through this whole slide. Really, what I just want to highlight on this slide is the bottom portion, our meals per service day. As everyone in this room might be aware, our school district is growing at a pretty fast rate. Prior year to current year, enrollment growth was just short of 5%. It was like 4.9%. So not only did we capture that 5% enrollment growth in our meals, we actually captured an additional 3.5% overall. So all in all, prior year to current year, we were up 8.5% meals per service day versus prior year. Some of the things that we did to contribute to that, we implemented Papa John's at all 6 of our middle schools. And something that's very unique is that we're actually only one of 2 school districts in the whole U.S. that has Papa John's in our schools. And when we offer them, I mean that we're actual franchises. So we actually make all the pizzas from scratch in our kitchens. Lunch to go orders, these are teacher meals. This was a big request over the years for our teachers, especially our elementary campuses. So we're just shy of 800 orders placed for teacher meals for this school year. And then expansion of our high school breakfast. Our high schools are no longer on the National School Breakfast Program, so we're able to offer a variety of items, not only in breakfast, but for lunch as well. But our job cities, we're able to offer the full menu, all the sugary drinks that the kids like. So, and then on our home line, we offer a lot of home-style breakfast options. We have new waffles, and we have expanded a la carte options. And fresh ingredients, this is across the whole district, but at our schools, we make a lot of our recipes are scratch made, so we use only the freshest ingredients. And this next slide is just a small sample of some of the food that we have across our campuses. Moving along to our employees, we're in a very strong economy right now, and there's a lot of competition around the area. So we're really focused on employee retention and employee recognition. So not only did our employees get their annual merit increase, we actually gave them a market adjustment increase as well of 25 cents across the board to all our employees. And that was just an appreciation to them for all the hard work that they do for us and, in our partnership with the school district. And some of our recognition programs that we do, we have an annual holiday meal for them. We give out treats to them for big holidays. We have a dedicated appreciation day for them, which is tomorrow actually. We give out monthly awards, and we have an employee newsletter where we have interviews for our employees where we can share the rest of our employees. Something that we recently just started is an online feedback tool on our website where anyone can go to our website and submit anonymous feedback, questions, concerns, and again, we're always looking to improve our program, so we like to take this feedback and take that and try to improve. What is coming next? One of the things that was a concern over the years was our speed of service, especially at the elementary schools. So what we did was we purchased scanners, ID scanners, to try to expedite that speed of service. We already have these scanners at the middle schools and high schools, and we found that to be really successful. New brand concepts at the high schools. We're going to be testing out some different stations at our high schools, things like ramen bar, possibly a barbecue station. And something that I'm really excited about is sushi. We have a vendor that will be doing a site visit very soon, and I've been working really hard, and I'm hoping to get this implemented before the start of the next school year. I'm sure everyone knows Chef Anthony and all the great things he does around our district. I'm going to be working with him over the summer to try to revamp and enhance our catering menu. Last year was the first year of providing summer meals, and we're going to continue that this year, and we're hoping to expand to an additional location. And finally, we have our food show at the end of the month at Eaton High School, where we're going to be having samples of some of our menu items, and we'll be there to answer questions and just provide some insight and knowledge about everything that we do for the school district. Thank you. Thank you.
Last but not least, Alpha Best. This is David McClure. Thank you.
Good evening. This one. Good evening, everyone. My name is David McClure, no relation that I know of at least. I also I have with me Megan, Sarah, and Lindsay, who are our leadership team out here at Northwest. They do all the hard work and make us all look good. I don't want to talk about that. There we go. There we go. We are a nationwide company, and we serve about 25,000 students across the nation in 11 states, 32 districts, and about 305 elementary schools. This is an overview of all our school district partners who we partner with over the years, and the year that the contract started with them. In Texas, we have 11 districts, 119, we have just over 8,000 kids in 11 districts of 119 schools and just over 700 staff. In Northwest, we employ about 90 staff, the 3 area managers, 1 program specialist, 20 site directors or assistant site directors, and about 60 zone leaders. Those are the people that work with the children on a daily basis. We don't have this year's survey out yet. It will be out in the next couple weeks. But each year we do conduct parent surveys. Last year's show that overall the majority of parents are pleased with the job that we are doing. We, of course, are hoping that this year's will be even more, show even better results. This is our school year enrollment. Our enrollment has grown considerably over the last 2 years. We're currently very close to breaking 1,000. We actually may have just broken 1,000 kids in the program. We need to confirm that, though. Over the last, from the 17-18 school year to the 18-19 school year, we had 18% growth. And for next school year, we expect a conservative 11% growth, which should put us just over 1,100 kiddos. Summer enrollment, we're happy to start operating out of Seven Hills this summer to help serve the west side of the district, and we expect our enrollment for this summer to reach about 230 kiddos. In your handout, you should have some specific details on the annual shared revenue the district receives, along with the total annual benefit amount that is given to district employees through our discount programs. And then we also make an annual contribution to the Education Foundation. No, very welcome. This is one of our coolest things that we've done. This last year, we've developed a partnership with the Northwest Career and Technical Education Department, where we've worked with the students and teachers involved in the education and coaching course. We've got about 15 students employed with us at the moment, and it's been a great benefit to both groups. We get to have some good employees, and the students get experience working with children and also to get a paycheck. And then next year, our next step in this program expansion is to offer, we've just been approved by the TEA to offer we have a school-age child development course that's just been approved, and we get to offer that to any of our employees at no cost. So that's a big feather in our hat that we're very proud of. We're also proud of this. Our summer program curriculum is written and developed by Paul and Peter Reynolds. They wrote the book and drew the pictures for the Going Places book, and that's going to be our theme for this summer. And we're very excited to have their partnership with them and their company, Fable Vision. And then this is a brief example, a very broad example of what our curriculum is like. Each day the children will have opportunity to do, of course, homework and other activities like going outside and playing on the playground, all that fun stuff. But they also get to participate in fitness and wellness, arts, language or foreign culture, technology, makerspace, and club programming. And then some opportunities that we want to work on for this summer and next school year is before school programming. We actually are working with Reliant to have them charter our summer camp field trips starting this summer, I think, and then focus on growing our summer camp program. And we thank you for your time and appreciate the opportunity to serve Northwest and their families. Do you guys have any questions?
Just a couple observations. Yes. The CT partnerships, Lynn, long distance fist bump, that's great. And then the fact that the kids are getting paid for it too, yeah. Which I think the students that go to actually teach at the middle schools and whatnot don't get paid. So to get paid and part of CT, that's amazing.
It's win-win.
And then I knew y'all had a curriculum, but I didn't know what it looked like until these slides, and that's amazing, absolutely amazing. So
take a lot of pride in it.
So I'm going to be showing all of y'all's presentation on my Facebook page. So I'm impressed.
Yep, we're glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next report is Budget Process Update Report. Dr. Lawrence?
Mr. Carter. Good evening. I was excited. I thought I was going to get to do Alphabest, and then he took my thunder away from me. So I'll go through a couple of notes here, and then we'll hit a few slides, and we'll move on. So locally, as far as the budget process rolling forward, locally within NISD, obviously we're looking closely at House Bill 3. More on the House side than the Senate right now. The Senate's very quiet, so I'm waiting to see what the Senate is going to do in response to House Bill 3 being passed. Those discussions obviously will be on our radar for the immediate future. We have met with all executive directors and gone through their staffing needs for both 1920 and beyond. We are currently reviewing all of the non-payroll expenditures, so contracted services, supplies and materials, et cetera, to look at that for 1920. As some of you have probably, I know ours has come to the House. Your tax statements are being sent out for property value estimates by our 3 counties. And so we are beginning those revenue estimates based upon those 3 counties' taxable value studies. On the legislative side of things, back in March, here in the boardroom, we reviewed the adjustments to staffing, looked at preliminary reports. House Bill 3 does represent a major rewrite to the school finance system. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts in there, a lot of changes that will happen each time we come before you in these meetings. It does appear so far that the House and Senate are agreeing on one thing, which is about $9 billion in additional school funding, with a reminder that that is $4.5 billion per year, because that's for the biennium. There are some people that think that's $9 billion per year, and that is for the 2 years. There is a debate between the House and the Senate of how those additional dollars are going to be allocated to those school districts, and that's where the fine-tuning is going to take place over the next several months. There is some interest in the tax rate compression. But there hasn't been a defined moniker of how that's going to take place yet. So again, something else that's still up in the air. There's a lot of interest in districts wanting to see runs of what the financial impact of this is going to be. So those are ranging anywhere right now from about $15.3 million on TASBO's study through Moak and Casey, and then a lower estimate of about $13.6 billion. Billion would be nice. 13.6 million in the LBB estimate. And the difference in the two is how they're calculating the recapture estimates for Northwest ISD for next year, which both of those are expected to be over $20 million in a recapture payment. But House Bill 3 is looking at eliminating that provision, so we are big fans of that bill at this point in time. Some high points through this slideshow, and I'll just flip through some of them that reiterate some of the items that I've mentioned. The Senate had an original proposition in there on a $5,000 teacher pay increase. There are some things Dr. Kaylee mentioned earlier in her presentation that are included on a slide later in here. And I'll just flip it. So here's the legislative pipeline from TASBO, showing in the bottom right corner an estimated $15.8 million in additional revenue to Northwest ISD. That is in 1 year. This new provision that's out there dealing with districts and tax ratification elections is this efficiency audit that's in that first bullet point. That does seem like something that is potentially going to stick as they compress tax rates. They're going to require districts to go through an efficiency audit, so a school district would need a contract with an auditor. Potentially right now, if they're choosing, TEA would set the standards by which that audit is performed, and an efficiency audit would have to be presented. There is a timeline that goes into that before a TRE election can be held. There is some golden penny enrichment things out there, which is of great interest to us potentially in any districts out there. As there is mention in here later of going up to 8 golden pennies. There is some increasing in some basic allotments, which is what is driving those additional funds. And there'll be a slide in here that talks about where Dr. Kaylee mentioned they're talking about how they want us to use that additional money for salary increases. It does keep the tax cap, the first bullet, at $1.17 on the maintenance and operations side. So they did clarify that. There's some comp ed allotments that they're wanting to increase, which obviously would be great for us. And then rollback language is dealing with Tier 1 and Tier 2 pennies. We can go into that later as these things work their way out. This is the Legislative Budget Board's estimate, you'll see in the bottom right corner, 13.7 million, excuse me. And then that's the House Bill 3 that went through the House, 148-1. So now that's up for debate with Senate's consideration. And this is more talking about the efficiency audits, and I've mentioned that already, dealing with tax ratification elections. And this is a piece that Dr. Kayla was mentioning earlier that we'll need to follow really closely, because this would have an impact in what Northwest ISD is planning to do with salaries. And this would cause our salary schedules to potentially increase quite a bit. It's kind of one of those, I think it's kind of a look at the compromise with what the Senate wants to do with teacher pay raises, and where the House may come in and agree or compromise in something that says, okay, well, we're going to give these districts some additional money, but we're going to tie it up in how they can spend some of that. So again, something later on to see, because it could impact us quite a bit. Compensatory education allotments, they're bringing back in some weights and requirements that already exist. So not really quite sure that that's much for discussion at this point in time. Some other allotments and amendments. Again, just a lot of things that are up in the air right now, but overall, the district would benefit from House Bill 3 as it sits, and hopefully stays fairly close. And we've got the last slide in there at the end of this legislative update and budget process update. So we'll continue to monitor this closely, looking at staffing alignments and allocations for 1920 and further, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions. Great, thank you.
Okay, our next report is Curriculum Audit Report. Dr. Warren?
Board, the C&I with, of course, Rob and Stephanie's leadership, Michael's leadership, pretty much the whole crew have been working very hard on the audit that we've received. It's a very good process. It's been a good process to look inwardly in what we're doing. And so Stephanie's here to bring you our first report on the curriculum audit.
All right. So just briefly, the background of the audit, it was conducted through TASA, through certified auditors. There were 10 auditors that were present that visited all of our campuses. This happened at the end, towards the end of last year, from April 30th to May 3rd. And when all was said and done, they provided us with a 501-page draft, and now we have since received the final copy. It is important to note that it's an exception report, so they don't really look for all the wonderful celebrations that you would hope they would see, but they are really looking for things that might be missing or areas in which you can improve. So although it is an exception report, there were many strengths that were noted in the executive summary as well as the findings, and so those are listed here. I am going to read these and the areas of focus, but the first one was strong local policy that addresses curriculum development, review, and evaluation, a comprehensive curriculum management plan. They noted considerable work had been expended by district leaders to craft a vision for instruction that is student-centered and focused on effective and engaging learning. The curriculum management plan, assessment plan, strategic plan, district improvement plan, and professional learning framework are present. Plans are comprehensive in nature with only minor revisions needed. A great deal of work was devoted to developing curriculum, and the district is working to support instruction with high curriculum materials. And then NISD has a clear direction and vision for effective instruction in district documents. So we were excited to see many of those things were found and detailed throughout the audit. And then areas of focus, they did note that policy should be addressed regarding student and program assessment, as well as policies that address content and job descriptions as well as expectations. Scope and sequence along with assessment schedules can be difficult to have a reasonable time for reteaching content and deepening student understanding. That was one we wish they would tell TEA. So that's one of those things we often battle, is getting all the TEKs in the time that we need. Implementation is not yet institutionalized for most plans, with the need for formalized monitoring and procedure supports consistent with implementation. Look at processes to assure implementation connections from central office to campus level decision making. And as you read through the audit, a lot of the notes there were regard to rapid growth and having systems in place to ensure that we are keeping up with that rapid growth. High-quality curriculum development practices with additional work needed to better align practices at all departments and campuses with goals and vision of the district. Observed practices were not consistent with district expectation, and instructional monitoring lacks consistent and the focus necessary to improve curriculum delivery for the success of all students. They did visit many of our classrooms for about 2 to 3 minutes per visit in each of those classrooms, but they did visit every campus. And so that's where some of those observations came from. And classroom activity observed was primarily large group direct instruction with cognitive demand, frequently at low levels of cognition. This was also prevalent in different attendance zones, so they noted that as well. So with that said, we gathered a committee to really dissect the whole audit report because it was a daunting document and important for us to look at as closely as possible. We analyzed those findings to determine, one, just even our agreement with some of the findings or philosophies that were stated within the audit to make sure that we agreed with those philosophical thoughts and questions more than anything, and to determine our next steps. So as you can see there, we had 65 members of that audit committee with a range of teachers, administrators, coordinators, as well as district and campus administrators. So this is where our next steps have come from. So our curriculum management plan, the audit noted that it was a strong document with most of the components met, and so there were a few areas to address, so we will definitely address those, but really looking at then aligning everything that was addressed in that curriculum management plan across campuses. And with that, it talks a lot about adding those components of expectations and monitoring of the curriculum and the plan. So we're looking at that as one of our initial next steps. And then on the adopt and communicate side, develop that policy to support district documents and expectations under the recommendation and guidance of the Board of Trustees and in those bulleted areas. And then definitely communicate plans, changes, and expectations. That was definitely an area of growth that we saw in the audit, that we have many of these things in place, but maybe it's not always communicated to the level it needs to be communicated to each campus, especially with our growth. So when we hire nearly 300 teachers every year, we need to make sure that we're continuing that message every year across to them. So just for your reading pleasure, I did include the audit standards and then the actual 10 specific audits that were included. Now, each of these 10 have several recommendations under that, but you were provided with the complete 501 pages, so I'm sure you have read them all, as I have several times. But if you have any questions right now, please let me know.
Questions. I did read all 501 pages. It wasn't that easy to understand everything that they were saying, and I thought it was very repetitious in places. But I was, and I'm sure you're going to be shocked, but I was surprised about the interventions. Is what my question was about, the way it's presented, the way it's monitored. So what's the plan for that?
So those are just several things that we have in the works. So because there was 501 pages and many findings and recommendations to look at, we're really taking things step by step. So one of the first things we're really going to look at, because everything falls under the guidelines of our curriculum management plan, including interventions. So we're really going to dissect that first, as well as our instructional model, because that hits Tier 1 instruction. We will look at that very closely first. And we have a plan for working through that to start with. Now, interventions, there were some things under the intervention piece that we have since gave them more information on because we weren't quite in agreement with some of their findings. And so we're going to continue to look through those and make sure that everything that we provide for our students is at the highest quality that we can.
I was also wondering, because we all have a different perspective, if we could get some more clarifications with your committee? I know that the committee was separate and then the findings were going to be presented to the board, but would it be possible to have maybe a discussion meeting or something so that some people who maybe didn't have the opportunity to read all 501 pages could have a little more information?
Yes, and we plan on, every time we meet with the committee, to come back. This is not going to be the first report over the audit, and to take each piece. And then really, this is really just an overview to give you our general findings, and then we want to take each piece and our plan for addressing each area, and then we will report that out as well. But we could definitely meet and discuss that even further.
Thank you.
Dr. Espinosa, I'm going to just read from the executive summary. I actually have previewed all 500 pages, and because I enjoy that kind of reading, and because this is important. And this first area about control and governance really does relate to our role as board members. And I want to read a sentence here. There was a policy for curriculum development, review, and evaluation. However, the policy was insufficient to guide decision making. That makes me feel responsible to know the policies and to really give thought to them. Another statement in here, policy was absent regarding a student and program assessment plan, particularly in this control and governance section. I feel like I need in-depth information in order to do my job as a board of trustees. I know some of these things you agree with, you disagree with, and I know it was pointing out those things that we continue to work on. But particularly in this idea of control and governance, and particularly when it relates to policy, it seems to me to be important that we have a better understanding, a deeper understanding.
Yes, and we exactly have looked at that. We've worked with Ms. Hobbs to look at policy as well. We had a particular group of people on the committee that was their job to look at policy, and we will continue to look at that. And within the next steps, that was one of the areas, really, that adopting what our expectations are, what our policies need to be, and then bringing those to the board to look at those changes or additions at that time.
And then that's a good way to put it. Next step is we'll probably have to have a series of meetings, workshops, to really lay out to you, because you're right, there are a lot of the things that we agree with, but there's also a lot of the things, you can't use policy for everything. You can't have a policy for everything, and we need discretion as the leadership to not, be under policy, to be able to improvise when we need to. So I think we need to take a long time after the weeds, the work gets done by our committees who are diving into this. Then it's up to us, the team of 8, when we'll be a team of 8 again, to really do our part in looking at their recommendations and then dissecting in what we do agree with and what we disagree with.
And I agree, and I agree a workshop would be very helpful, because I do think that this is our responsibility as a board, not just for executive leadership or for campus leadership, but we need to understand the policies. Not that we have to create them, but we need to understand them.
No doubt. Anytime they mention policies, then you really do need to be all over it.
I feel like we're shirking our responsibility. And the other part of this is that I understand that much of this needs to come back in terms of budget priority. And I really sincerely want to understand the policies and the decision making that helps us bring forth budget items that we do monitor the success of. And I think sometimes we bring forth these things for budget, and we don't have a way of knowing if this is a good investment, if it's paying off for our students. And so I value the work you're doing here, but I would encourage you and your committee to include us in this work so we have a better understanding.
And really the only thing I disagree with everything that you just said was I don't think I would call it shirking. We go through these audits just to identify what the auditors think are weaknesses. I mean, and it's an opportunity to get better. But I don't think you're. No, that's what I meant. I don't think you're shirking. I just think this is an opportunity to learn more and see where we need to make improvements.
But I do want to say I feel like I'm not doing my due diligence if I don't have better information.
Thank you.
Did you have a question? Okay. All right, our next item, consider any item removed from the consent agenda, and there were none. So now we move to Board President's Report. We have Inspire Celebration honoring retirees and teachers of the year Thursday, April 11th at 6 p.m. at Texas Motor Speedway. Communities and School Banquet is Saturday, April 27th at 6 p.m. at Embassy Suites in Grapevine. And the Northwest Education Foundation Gala is Saturday, May 4th at 7 p.m. at Marriott Champion Circle. Please let Jennifer know if you plan to attend any of these. And don't forget Election Day is Saturday, May 4th. And now Superintendent's Report, Dr. Warren.
Board, just a couple of things. Number one is at your place you should have a list, and Jennifer's done a good job of giving you a list for district and campus activities. Anything that you see that you like, you are more than invited to come up with. Everybody would love to see you there. And then our last discussion, Board, is just, we had we're going through the process of discussing a class ranking issue with one of our students, and that's been a good process. It's moving forward, and we'll give you more information about that when it comes to you. But Ann had a question about, do we want, and this is a local EIC local policy, and I sent that to you on my Friday report. It gives you kind of the breakdown of what our beliefs are and what our policies are for our honor graduates, for our Val and Sal. And listening to what the young lady's issue was, and not putting words in Ann's mouth, it's just, the question is, would you want us to form a committee to revisit this policy? And I think I made the point to you, anything that we do, especially when it comes to the class rank, wouldn't take effect until we see our next batch of high schoolers move through. So at the very least, at the very most, this year's 8th graders, if you decided to make any alterations to the ranking policy. But I just wanted some guidance before we did that, is if you feel the need to do that, or if after you've read EIC, do you like it as is? And Dr. Simpson, feel free.
And I do appreciate this is kind of long term, but as I read this policy, it seems to not match our mission and our vision for really thinking about all of the students in a fast growth district. And I've been checking around, and just to the north of us, a district has certainly the valedictorian, salutatorian, and top 5, but then they have a different process for recommending the others that follow. And so I think it would be really helpful to have some group take a look at what might we do. The difference between having 80 in a graduating class and 1,500 in a graduating class in a fast growth district, it just seems like this is a good time to relook at this. And again, it's 4 years down the road, but it's a good time.
Yeah, I kind of agree, especially in a unique situation like that. There's needs to be some additional guidance, I guess. And just because it's unique, and like Ann said, we're fast growing, and I guess we can talk more about it so I can formulate my thought a little better. I wasn't expecting to talk about it right now, so.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we should probably just at least look at it again.
Oh, absolutely. We can look at it. There are differences between unique situations and then policies that deal with all of our student body. We have the appeal process that children, that parents, that staff can go through to ask permission to do things. And really, if it deals with a policy, you're the only leadership board who can make a difference, a decision from what is written policy. Campus level cannot do that. I can't do that. I cannot divert from policy. So you're the ones that are able to make this decision. I will tell you exactly what Ann just said. I do agree with what is in EIC right now because we are a fast growth district. It does protect those students, the majority of students who have been with us for quite a while, rather than someone coming in their senior year or December of their senior year us not knowing what the rigor was in the programs that they took and everything. And it just protects what I think is the integrity of our academic programs to honor the kids that we feel have gone through the majority of our programs. But we can absolutely take a look at this, but just know you do have the discretion to make a decision in unique situations, and you may very well do so in a couple of weeks. So just know that policies are put in place to protect as the majority of students as we move through the school year. The unique situations are exactly why that appeal process is put in place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me just say that this policy was put in place for that very reason, was because of a student that had been in this district, chose to go to a program offered through a university, and then came back their senior year when they found out that with their GPA from that program would enable them to be in the top 10% or top 10 of the class, bumping out a student that had stayed here, gone through the AP programs, had gone through dual credits, and was no longer a part of the top 10. And so it was put in place to protect those from from students picking and choosing where they want to go so that they can move from one campus to another or from one district to another, because they do shopping, as we all know, because they want that rank. And I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of districts have just done completely away with class ranking, and just said we've got a salutatorian and a valedictorian, and the rest of them are in the top 10% of, but we don't have a class rank. And I think that that's one way of solving the problem.
And I think that would be something to consider. I mean, I think there are districts that have done that, and that's why I think we really should look at the policy, have a committee.
And it was just, it was in response to that incident that caused this policy to be put in place. Before that, we had none.
Well, I'll tell you this, Dr. Ferris has a real need to present this to you. He told me that the other day. And so, number one is I wanted to have this conversation just for y'all to know that this will not impact any future decision you make on any unique situations. You have full discretion to do that. So if you'll just give us a little time, maybe allow us to shut the school down, the year down, and then maybe this summer and the fall we will bring this to you. We'll have all the what fors and whys lined out for you, and then we can have a really good discussion on it. Mrs. Kopp, that's all I have. And board, you are dismissed. Thank you.
Oh, we can't go there.